So the driver's rear brakes on my dad's F-150 were making some grinding sounds, and they've been doing it for a while because it wasn't convenient to take care of it. So it's time to do a brake job, right? So that's what I'm doing in this video. I'm going to be replacing the brake pads and replacing the drums on the rear brakes. And here we go. In this picture, you see why it was making that grinding sound. The adjuster actually came loose, and it was just basically being ground away inside there. And yeah, that's not good. So the driver's rear brake wasn't functional at all. It just had some pieces in there moving around that were essential to the function of the brakes, and they were just being worn away. Now I'm going to be replacing the majority of these components, like the springs and stuff like that. But this e-brake lever, it's got to come off of the brake pad because I need to reuse that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm spraying it with brake parts cleaner to get all the dirt and grime out of there. And then the components that I'm going to be reusing, I go ahead and buff them to make sure that the mating surfaces are nice and clean. And then I go ahead and I get that e-brake lever back on there on the new pad. Now this e-brake lever, it comes off pretty easy, but it's really hard to get back on there because there's this the cable has a crimped on piece and then a spring that pushes against it, and then that lever is kind of in between the spring and the piece that's crimped onto the cable. And it's really hard to push that spring back and get that lever onto the cable, especially if you're doing it by yourself. It'd be nice to have somebody else hold the spring back and then another person slide on the lever. But after a while of messing around with it, I got it on there. Now I do have specialty tools for working on these brakes that made it easy for me to take the springs off and then also for me to put the springs back on. Now what you're supposed to do before you disassemble the brakes is to take a picture to make sure that you get all the components in the right spot. But since this had already fallen apart halfway, what I did is I did a Google search looking for pictures of this assembled brake assembly. And then I just looked at my components and laid them out before I put them on to make sure that I was putting them in the right spot. And that worked out pretty good. Got everything where it's supposed to go. And then once I got all that on, I fitted on the new drum. And you're supposed to have a slip fit of your pads to the drum. So I had to keep adjusting the adjuster at the bottom there to spread the pads out. and make sure that I got the right fit of the pads to the drum. And then once I got that adjusted the way I liked it, I went ahead and put the wheel back on. So then what I did was I used the impact wrench to just get the lug nuts on most of the way, and then I tightened it down with a torque wrench to make sure that I got the right torque on all those nuts. Now here I am on the passenger side, getting ready to do that side. Now the passenger side was still working, but the issue I had with it was that the pads had worn a groove into the drum. So the drum was actually locked on because of that. The pads, adjusted into that groove that they made, and sliding the drum off basically meant that I had to compress those pads smaller than they wanted to go. So I just kept banging on it and tapping on it. And you see I got a piece of aluminum there that made it a little bit easier to just keep on tapping on that drum until it came off. And then now I am taking a picture to make sure that I get the new components in the right spot. Now on this side, I didn't want to take the e-brake lever off because I didn't want to go through all that effort to get it back on there, but it wound up falling off anyways. So it is what it is, Now the rest of this video is just going to be a time lapse finishing up the passenger side brakes.